Welcome back on board the Starship. I'm talking with Neil Sanders, and
Hello.
we've been touching on some alleged mind control projects. Now, we discussed MK Ultra before the break. Neil, just can you give us an overall one paragraph? What was MK Ultra? Or is it too broad to define?
Well, this is the thing. Well, for a start, okay, the MK Ultra is a fact. Okay, we've got declassified documents. Basically, it's stuff like programming children to be assassins, programming people to have different personalities, multiple personalities, programming people for truth serums, and programming people so that it can be used as photographic memories for couriers, for espionage and stuff like that.
So we come on to another project, Project Monarch.
Yes.
Was that a CIA project?
Well, this is the thing. You see, whereas MK Ultra has basically been released in 1977, Ted Kennedy spoke to the Senate about it, and Clinton's apologised for it. It's official. Monarch is one of these projects that is rumoured. Like Fritz Springmeier wrote about Monarch, has created an Illuminati mind-controlled slave, and basically he speaks about people like Jar Jar Gabor and Marilyn Monroe and Jay Mansfield being part of it. The sort of people that have come forward saying that they are part of Monarch are Bryce Taylor and Kathy O'Brien. What Monarch is the female sex slave program. These are girls that have basically usually come from some multi-generational incest families, usually possibly with a sort of satanic link to it as well. And they are utilised by the government, and their personalities are broken down. By the time they become adults, what they are termed is presidential models. Now, this will be very attractive blonde girls that are usually sort of sex slaves that can be used for blackmail, or they can be used for espionage. One of them was basically Bryce Taylor. She wrote the book Thanks for the Memories.
Bryce Taylor, so people can Google that name?
Yeah. Bryce Taylor claims that basically her father was actually under CIA programming, and since birth she was into this family where she was being set up for it. She was taken as a child and used in child pornography and sex trade and prostitution and stuff like that. And she claims that she was trained at military bases all across the way. Right. When she was older, she became what's termed a presidential model, which is essentially a sex slave and a personal computer. You basically, the girl will walk into a room and she's remembered every aspect, which she can then relay back using photographic memory. She names Bob Hope, the comedian Bob Hope, as her handler. She says that basically entertainment was a hobby of his. It was just a front. He was actually part of an espionage group that was there for sort of world control. She also names Ronald Reagan as using her. She also says that Henry Kissinger, or Heinz Kissinger, as was exposed by Christopher Story. I mean, this is interesting because Henry Kissinger is essentially a triple agent. He worked for Germany, Russia, and England, or alternatively,
England, not US.
Sorry, US, or perhaps do they all work together? That's the question. But basically, he was the owner of her mind files, which is all the sort of stored espionage files, all the sort of knowledge that she's gained on popular figures, celebrities, and stuff like that. And Bryce Taylor claims that she was often used at parties with Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion. Now, this is quite interesting because
Hefner, who's Hugh Hefner?
Hugh Hefner is the he's related to the Bush family. And basically, he's the magnate of Playboy magazine. He owns the Playboy Mansion.
All right.
Now, if you watch Girls of the Playboy Mansion, which is a program, it's like a reality TV show that shows, aside from anything, they're all blonde. They're all blonde, which is the look of Playboy. But if you could go into the symbolism of the Easter Bunny and stuff like that, if you really wanted to. The point is, if you look at these girls on the Girls of the Playboy Mansion, you become sort of transfixed. You sort of look at this and you notice that their eyes, they're very wide. They're very all these girls look like they've been under post-traumatic stress disorder and stuff like that. This is purely speculation, but I was looking at sort of Madeleine McCann and pictures of Madeleine McCann. If you cover up her eyes, cover up the photo, it doesn't matter if she's smiling or everything, look at the eyes and see if that's a happy child or if that's a traumatised child.
So you're getting into controversial areas here, Neil.
That's just speculation.
Can we go there? I mean, it's
probably not.
We'll leave Madeleine McCann out of it, I think.
Yes. But I mean, the thing about Bryce Taylor was he was backed up by a researcher called Walter Bower, who wrote Operation Mind Control. Which is really difficult to get hold of now. Basically, he saw Bryce Taylor on several occasions with Bob Hope as a sort of cocktail waitress, sort of part of his entourage, which sort of adds credence to her story.
So, all right, and so the other people who are rumoured to have been involved in Project Monarch are
Cathy O'Brien.
Cathy O'Brien. You mentioned Michael Jackson before.
Well, Michael Jackson is sort of, it's in the sort of public domain that Michael Jackson suffers from dissociative identity disorder, as does Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan, which we'll get onto.
Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan.
Yeah. Dissociative identity disorder is essentially, multiple personality, which is what they were trying to achieve to sort of get this, to get this spy or whatever involved. And basically she claims that Bob Hope sponsored the Jacksons. And that on several occasions, Joe Jackson, who's Michael Jackson's father, would take the Jackson 5 to meetings with influential businessmen and essentially prostitute. Now, she claims that she's seen the Jackson 5 being prostituted by Bob Hope on behalf of Joe Jackson.
What do you mean by being prostituted?
Being sold for sex to businessmen. Like
so businessmen would have sex with the Jackson 5?
Yeah. Well,
Really?
apparently. Well, this is what she claims. I mean,
Right.
basically, Jermaine Jackson has come out in interviews and said that these meetings did take... He never says that there was sex involved, but he says that there were very strange meetings where his father would take Michael to visit important businessmen in hotels, and he'd be gone all night, and then he'd be ill, like physically ill, for days afterwards. I mean, he has got multiple personalities, or it's alleged that he's got dissociative identity disorder.
So you think that Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan have at some point in their lives been taken to a facility, shall we say, a hospital, whatever, and hypnotized, been programmed using mind control techniques?
Yeah, and some people might say that basically, so they found these celebrities and decided to think, no, I believe that they manipulated them into this character and then made them celebrities, to be quite honest, just almost to sort of hide it in plain view.
So, hang on, let's get this right. So, what people would say is that people who are, famous, who have millions of people watching them, they become like that because
of the pressures,
of the pressures, they take drugs.
Yeah.
So they don't behave like ordinary people. Because they're on this pedestal.
Yeah. Well, I think
so. You would contend that they have been picked out, deliberately by somebody who's saying, right, you're going to be the next, famous person that children will look up to, and we're going to control you from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. Britney Spears, Marilyn Monroe, Madonna, Celine Dion, Tom Hanks, all related.
So do you think that those people that you've just named, that they all have handlers?
Very possibly. I mean,
Tom Hanks?
It was one of those, isn't it? Some people will and some people won't. I actually think, there's a lot of evidence that even sort of people right at the top have got handlers, like Bill Clinton. There's the footage of Bill Clinton possibly under hypnosis in between feed at the White House and stuff like that. A lot of people have suggested that Michael Jackson had a handler, that it was a person called Majestic Magician, who was like his personal magician, basically.
So I guess would you say then that let's assume that that's true, that some of these famous singers or what have you are being controlled. They're not in charge of their own decisions, shall we say.
Well,
that the reason would be that they are influencing so many millions of young people that somebody else behind a veil will want to take control of that person and therefore manipulate the younger generation. Is that what you're saying is the purpose of it?
Well, let's look at the anti-panty set, right, which was basically well, this is what Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, the anti-panty set. Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears and Paris Hilton in a short period of time became very good friends and spent about 3 weeks wandering around LA, getting out of cars with no knickers, flashing their knickers.
So
now,
not
knickers.
Anti-panty set. This is like
this was reported
three famous stars.
Yeah, they all
sounds like an advert for women's products.
Well, I'm no prude, right? I really don't. I'm into ridiculously obscure Japanese horrors and stuff. I don't care about that sort of stuff. But when you've got like marketing Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears and people like this, toddlers, 6 and 7 year old girls who are singing back the lyrics. Let's examine NSYNC's lyrics, examine, all the boy band's lyrics, and they're singing to 13, 14 year old girls, telling them about what they want to do to them and stuff like that. Again, I'm not a prude, but just be aware that what you're doing is you're sexualizing these kids younger and younger and younger and younger. And so, maybe that is there.
So we've got some footage of some of these celebrities, which are you saying that you think suggests they're under mind control?
Well, it's a fact. It's a reported fact that Britney Spears has got dissociative identity disorder. It's a reported fact that Lindsay Lohan has got dissociative identity disorder. She's got 2 completely separate personalities, one called Diane, one called Margot. Britney Spears has a personality that doesn't know who Britney Spears is, that speaks in an English accent, okay? And apparently when she was taken to see the Sinai's, when she had her breakdown, she spoke in an English accent all the way through and didn't know about who Britney Spears was. She shaved her head. I mean, that's the other thing. She shaved her head and everyone went, oh, she's on drugs, she's crazy. If you read accounts of Arizona Wilder, Kathy O'Brien, people like that, they shave their head when they break their programming, and it's to sort of sully their image, because if you think of them as like they're the sort of, you know,
blonde hair.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to destroy that that image, and so at least for a time being, I'm useless to them.
So we'll have a look at a clip now. This is the first one. I think is Anna Nicole Smith.
The 9-year-old at one point switches the talking doll off to prove.
Tell us what's happening here, Neil.
Well, what this is, I mean, this was brought to my attention. Well, brought to my attention. This Freeman of Freeman TV did an excellent thing called Anna Nicole, Britney, and Mind Control. What this is Anna Nicole Smith in the embodying an alter personality. Now, people will look at this and say, oh, she's on drugs, she's stuff like that. She's not. Look at her mannerisms, look at the way she speaks, look at the way she moves and walks. She's a child. She is in the personality of a child. Now, people have tried to pass this off saying she's on drugs. What drugs? Get me some of that, because that's wicked, that is. Like, you know, I've never seen anything that does that. That's amazing.
So what is it that she... Let's just take a look at it. So she's got a...
If you listen to the inflection of her voice, just listen to the way she talks and watch the way that she runs across the courtyard.
So you think she's been programmed to be a child?
I think she has. I mean, Freeman claims that basically she's got lots of personalities. It would fit. She's a Playboy model. She's similar to Jar Jar Gabor, and there's even suggestions that she's vaguely related to Paris Hilton, who is, of course, Jar Jar Gabor's niece. But you know, the Freeman basically claims that Howard K. Stern, who's the bloke that's filming her, is her mind control handler. And if you listen to the way that she's talking later, he says, oh, people think you've lost your mind. And she says, I haven't lost my mind. He says, oh, I'm kidding. He's winding her up. He knows what's going off. And what's really strange is there's another little girl there that's getting terrified. If you listen to this bit, watch this bit, she doesn't know where she is. Now, what they're doing on the news is they're trying to pass this off as, oh, she was drug addicted and such like that. The first autopsy, what's interesting as well is the beginning of this news report, it shows a picture of Anna Nicole Smith covered in vomit. That's her dead. Why are they showing her dead?
Yeah.
That's trauma shocking people, isn't it? Like, but as I say, Freeman basically claims that she was famous for being a Playboy model that married Howard Marshall. Now, Howard Marshall was the 90-year-old oil magnate who it is suggested was probably an ex-Nazi that was given this girl, okay, to live out the last years of his life as like a present. Afterwards, I mean, there's a whole other conspiracy about the child. She's had a daughter who's going to inherit all the money. Who the father of that was a big court case, and this is where this footage came out, which is very, very strange because it was completely inadmissible as evidence. It's got nothing to do with the case. It was just shown. Now, as I say, people were saying that she was on drugs. The first autopsy that was done on Anna Nicole Smith proved that basically she wasn't on drugs. She'd not been on drugs for many, 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 many months. There was no evidence of it in a uterus or anything like that because she was pregnant at the time. None of that. The second autopsy showed that she died of a drug overdose. Now, interestingly, the second autopsy was, I forget the guy's name, but it was performed by the same person who did the second autopsy on John Benet Ramsey.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's suspicious then, you think?
Very, very suspicious. Completely suspicious.
Right. And there's a second clip here of Anna Nicole Smith.
This is just more of her as a clown. This is sort of... this is the sort of bit that people might have seen where she doesn't really know what's going on. And she's almost being teased by Howard Stern. And the question is, why are you filming her? If this is his girlfriend who's heavily pregnant at the time, why is he traumatizing another little girl by allowing his girlfriend to act crazy?
So was this footage sort of leaked then, or
well,
did
no,
it come out by
this is what
accident?
It didn't come out by accident. They played it in court. This was on Fox or whichever channel it was, and basically they were discussing where Anna Nicole Smith was to be buried.
Yes.
And for no reason at all, they introduced this video, and it was said in court, "This is inadmissible. It's pointless." And the judge says, "I don't care. Play it anyway." And then it just showed that, and it was never really mentioned again. It was just shown.
Now this next one is Britney Spears. Tell us what's happening here.
Oh, this is the one where Britney Spears is basically... oh, no, this is the one... You'll find this on the internet. This is perhaps an example of Britney Spears flicking between personalities. Basically, if you look halfway through a question, it's almost like she goes, hello, hello, and it's almost as if she's doesn't know where she is. Now, people will pass that off. If you look at the comments on YouTube and stuff like that, people say, well, she's upset, she's in the public eye and stuff like that.
So just tell us when she flips personalities.
It'll be fairly obvious.
This spasm of publicity about what happened from Mexico to London.
It was pretty rough, yeah.
She doesn't know where she is.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Ah, weird. Hello. Oh my goodness. Hello. Ew. Strong Brittany. Yeah, it was a weird.
So she's back now? Or?
Possibly. I mean, this is the thing. If you've got so many personalities in your head, basically, at the one point she says, hello, hello, weird, and she doesn't really know where she is. There was the famous performance when she sort of made her comeback on the MTV Awards, where everyone was saying, oh, look at her, she's so fat, she's so out of time. There was a dance bit where she's coming down some steps. I mean, obviously, there's a certain Freemasonic symbolism to that anyway. But I swear, on this MTV Awards, halfway down the steps, she stops and goes, I don't know where I am. And then a couple of seconds later, and then after that, she's out of time and stuff like that. But I think there is evidence that basically, I mean, she grew up in a family that, euphemistically, it was said that we never wore clothes in our house. It just wasn't done. We always used to just walk around in the nude and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Courtney Love.
Courtney Love, perhaps. Families do that, don't
of course they do, but again, it's all pieces to the puzzle, isn't it?
Right.
Courtney Love, basically, who's perhaps not the most trustworthy person in the world, but it's certainly interesting that she would say this. She wrote on her Facebook account on the day, I believe it was the day that basically Britney was cast off to hospital. She said, Britney's dad molested her. Imagine the father molested you, owning you for slavery, while you were forced to sing songs picked for their sexual content every night. Insane, right? But I have it on first-hand authority and fight as hard as she is, and yet she still did not pull that card. Basically, Courtney Love's suggesting that Britney's dad is perhaps a handler, or, you know, has certainly sexually abused her, and that she knows that Britney Spears knows this or whatever. You know, again, it's all hearsay.
Is he a biological father, do you know?
I think so, but again, you don't really know. I mean, it's one of those, you could argue about this all day long, you know, who's Barbara Bush's biological father? Is it Aleister Crowley? Yeah. Certainly looks like it.
Right. So what's this next clip? Is this Britney Spears again, or?
This is Britney Spears talking in a British accent.
You're so welcome here. Where's the car? Why is his hands so long to get caught? Why didn't you pull it up there? It's too much. And the camera's in your face. My God.
Let him go.
Where's the car? I don't like it.
The suggestion is that basically when she's talking in this British accent, she doesn't actually know who Britney Spears is, and like this has been confirmed by various paparazzo and so doctors at Cedars-Sinai Hospital. What's interesting, I mean, this is an aside, but when these people get into trouble, they go off to rehab. Britney Spears went to Crossroads Rehab. Now, if you know about the story of Robert Johnson and such like that, you sort of understand the symbolism of the crossroads. I mean, this was actually named after, I think Eric Clapton was involved in it. But Lindsay Lohan went to the Wonderland Clinic. Now, if you understand Wonderland and understand that basically Alice in Wonderland programming and stuff for MK Ultra mind control, but also the Wonderland Gang. Now, the Wonderland Gang, it was basically culminated in a murder that involved John Holmes, the porn star. They were a child sex, pornography, prostitution and drugs ring that was basically had connections to American government and various other sort of sections, and expanded sort of, it was a huge operation that you know, again, you can research this Wonderland Gang, John Holmes murder. Like, look at that, okay, and you know, this symbolism creeps up again and again and again. Apparently Britney Spears, when she was actually in hospital, she shaved her head, she wrote 666 on her forehead. She said, I am the Antichrist, and she tried to kill herself. Now, again, speculation, but both Kathy O'Brien and Bryce Taylor have basically said that within these alter personalities, you'll have like a suicide program, or if you start to remember too much, or you start to try and break your programming, you'll have an alter that is self-destructive.
All right.
So it's possible.
So just show us here, Neil, what do you, why you've highlighted this clip.
Well, if you listen, they've actually on the screen they're showing it. All that speaking, this sort of cod British accent is Britney Spears, and it might be kind of laughable to us, you know, because obviously it's not a great British accent or whatever. But the point is that she doesn't break from it, like. And
is this when she keeps shouting things out?
Yeah. She and you know, she's using English inflections like, can you show me where the loo is and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, she could be trying it on. She could be doing it just to entertain herself and stuff like that. But it has actually been confirmed by several psychiatrists that she's got personality disorders.
So let's just say that. Let's just go down the premise that when she's in this situation here, she's in this British personality.
Yeah.
Why would she be in that British personality at that point?
Who knows?
Not in another personality.
Well, who knows? Who knows what the triggers are? Like, right. I mean, this is the thing.
So there's
like,
triggers to switch them from one to another.
Well, I mean that's a fact. Basically, there was a declassified document talking about. This was actually talking about MK Ultra, and basically it was saying that in the 1950s they were hypnoprogramming 19-year-old girls. And that they could be triggered over the phone. They could be triggered like with a word, a phrase, a symbol, a card, a colour. In the Manchurian Candidate, the film, the trigger is a card. It's the Queen of Hearts and stuff like that.
Yes.
That, if you understand hypnosis, basically anything can be a post-hypnotic suggestion. One thing that's interesting, if you look at celebrities on the red carpet, look at the left hand and see the amount of celebrities that are doing this action. Okay, and what that is, it's a post-hypnotic suggestion where you've sort of taken through hypnosis, so you made you feel ultra confident, and that's a trigger. And when you do that, your brain, your subconscious remembers those positive emotions, and so what that is, it's a confidence boosting thing. So you sat there pressing on your button, filling yourself with confidence. And so these are established methods.
All right, Neil. Well, again, disturbing stuff, but we're going to go for another short break, and after the break, we're going to come a little bit closer to home. Well, no, we'll talk about Montauk first, and then Project Mannequin. So stay tuned.